Is there a media ban against Jacob Zuma? Jacob Zuma seems to think that there is a media ban on his name and his political party, the MK party. He also seems to think that there's a bias against his party and himself. Let's listen to this clip before we go any further.
The whole SABC says Zuma must not be heard in South Africa. Where must I be heard? This is my country. I belong here. This is surprising. But it is even more shocking that not only the SABC, but the ENCA has done exactly.
So he's saying that the SABC and the ENCA have something against him, and ENCA has actually done exactly the same thing, which is banning him or banning his content. Today, a press release came from the ENCA, and it reads as follows. It has come to the attention of the management of the ENCA that rumors have been circulating on social media that an interview between JJ Tabane and ex-President Zuma will be broadcast tonight. These statements were not sanctioned by the ENCA. The interview cannot be broadcast tonight as it is so close to elections. For this reason, all current affairs programs, including Power to Truth, have been cancelled this week. ENCA cannot advance the interest of any one political party over another. If the interview was broadcast, all other parties would need to be given equivalent airtime, which is impossible at this stage. ENCA will be complying with all of its regulatory obligations, prohibiting it from broadcasting such interviews 48 hours before the elections. No interviews with anyone representing a political party will be broadcast until after the election. ENCA favors no political party over any other, and the failure to broadcast the interview has nothing whatsoever to do with the fact that it involved ex-President Zuma and his MK party. Right. So let's look into some of these claims and really break them down and see if they're valid. It's a last-minute interview. Yes, but why? Why are you doing a last-minute interview? Jacob Zuma has been campaigning since December. It has been known that the MK party exists since December. The MK party won its electoral court case, the one dealing with its registration early in the year, right? Not early like Feb, what was that, March? But they won the case. And they won other cases around the trademark. So you've known that this party is registered and it exists for a protracted period of time. So an interview could have been organized. Why is it that this was left till the last minute? Also, why was the programming left till the last minute? Because it wasn't an unknown entity that there's going to be an election on the 29th of May and that there would be programming, current affairs programming, leading up until the 29th of May. Surely it should have been communicated much earlier that the programming would have changed. If it wasn't communicated much earlier, it leads people to assume that the programming change is not a principal programming change, but the one that is contingent on a variety of factors. That's the first thing. Number two, second thing, the double standard in the media across the board. Newsroom Africa tonight is having an interview with Thabo Mbeki, and he's talking about 30 years of democracy. He's talking about the ANC. He's talking party politics. Newsroom Africa is one of the top 3 news platforms on DSTV and in South Africa, right? So that in and of itself, the fact that on the same 27th of May, Newsroom Africa is having an interview with Thabo Mbeki and ENCA is not, indicates a discrepancy and a double standard. Because if the argument is true for both of the entities should have been told not to have the interview. And you may say one is independent of the other, but we've seen the Editors Forum coming in to particularly weigh in on issues such as this, right? In fact, even ICASA itself can come and weigh in on such a thing. We're not seeing that, which leads me to believe that there's some kind of a double standard that is in application here. On the 26th of May, 24 hours prior to this incident, or prior to my recording at the very least, President Cyril Ramaphosa made a public address to the people of South Africa. When the announcement came out, I thought that, hey, maybe there's a security issue that he wants to advise South Africa about. Maybe there's something exigent that he wants to advise South Africa about. But the bulk of his speech was merely him praising his record and the record of the governing party in the ANC. That's what the speech was. And many people viewed it as a campaign speech. Many people viewed it as something that was tantamount or close to being an abuse of power, because he was using the platform to campaign. And that's someone who's the president. It was streamed by the media platforms. They didn't say, well, since there's an election, we have to give all of the other party leaders equal access to the platform so that they can also give a mini-sona before the elections. 72 hours is an arbitrary difference between 72 and 48 hours, right? If something can be influential 48 hours before, it can be influential 72 hours before. It can be influential 144 hours before. That line seems to me to be arbitrary, and one that allows one person to do one thing and other people not to do another thing. So I have a concern about that. Oh, by the way, that point I was making about last minute interviews, even the BBC was able to interview Zuma and air the interview much earlier. So the very fact that it was done at the last minute, to me, is a criticism that sits directly at the desk of the media house. Now going to this double standard and some of the contradictions therein, the ENCA platform advertised this interview frequently. People were aware that this interview was happening and they were tuning in. ENCA basically created engagement and earned revenue from advertising as people were waiting for this interview, as they were looking forward to this interview in anticipation. So they actually made a profit, right, from actually saying we're going to host this interview and generating buzz. So for them to withdraw after having advertised seems to me that somebody actually made a call. Somebody actually said, look, you can't go through with this thing, pull the plug on this particular thing, because how else do you explain it being advertised? And then I want to explore as a third thing, the idea of unfair advantage. They say that, if we allow a particular political party to have an interview, they'll have an unfair advantage. I'm not sure that an interview is an advantage. Especially an interview with JJ Tabane, that can go left very fast. JJ Tabane is one of the toughest people in the South African media landscape. He can grill you and get your bones out. Your bones will be falling off the bone when he's done with you. That's how robust and thorough of an interviewer he is. In fact, many people don't want to be interviewed by JJ Tabane because he can dissect you and chop you and leave you looking like a chakalaka. That's the extent of his interview acumen. So I'm not sold on the idea that Jacob Zuma was going to get an advantage by debating JJ Tabane, unless we just assume that Jacob Zuma can win every debate, every time that he speaks, he's just going to checkmate everybody. That to me seems as if it's not a plausible argument in this particular instance. Also, when it comes to advantage, yesterday when I looked at the Sunday publications, City Press, Sunday Times, I saw that President Cyril Ramaphosa was on the cover of those publications. The ANC rally was on the cover of those publications, which leads me to believe that actually, if we are talking about giving people platform, yesterday he had maximum platform. So if anybody was given an unfair advantage, it would be him. It would be him and his party. That's what the implication is of this particular argument, but I don't buy into it. And I think that this interview should have been aired, especially when the other interview of Thabo Mbeki is being aired on the same day at a similar time. My fourth concern is around editorial interference. It seems as if JJ Tabane informed his audience that he was going to release this. I listened to JJ Tabane on SMWX talking about how there's no editorial interference. He's allowed to run his show how he wants. So he has his microphone, which is different from this, got a silver microphone, and then he'll shout, blah, 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 blah. JJ is a shouter. Me, I'm not a shouter. I can't maintain that volume. But JJ shouts from his platform, and he said he's allowed to rant. He's allowed to rant, to shout, to scream, to whatever. So now I'm wondering, is his journalistic independence being curtailed at such a critical moment? Is there some meddling at such a critical moment? I don't know the answer, but I think it's fair for us to ask the question. Why are JJ's rants being shut down in such a critical time? If ever there was a time to listen to JJ shout into that microphone, this should be the time. He's somebody who has a PhD in media studies. He's a professor, he's a veteran journalist, an expert journalist. And if he was going to say critical things, so be it. The idea that someone must be friendly to all entities competing in a race, I don't think is a real understanding of the concept of objectiveness and the context of fairness. For instance, if I'm playing soccer against Mbappe and I kick him in the shins in the 18 area, that's a penalty. That's a penalty. The referee who's fair will call a penalty. There's no mitigating factor there. There's no be balanced about that. I broke or kicked someone in the shin. I violated the rules of soccer. That's what it is. Sometimes we get this expectation that if someone is doing bad things, or if a party is doing bad things, or if they are failing in a particular thing, someone must then try and go and find something that is a mitigating consideration in the name of balance. But that is not balance. That is a cover-up, if you think about it. If someone has failed to provide employment and the youth are sitting at 48.7% unemployment for people between the ages of 25 to 35, what are you supposed to say about that? That's the statistic. You know, Jay-Z liked to say that the numbers don't lie. We should check the scoreboard. You know, the other rapper was like, check the statistics. Check the statistics. You know, that rapper, they were, Ben's Not Hot, used to say that. So I'm concerned now about editorial independence. The last thing I want to talk about is that there's a question about the role of the media that we need to ask ourselves very seriously. The role of the media. The media was blamed in 2016 for helping Trump get elected. The criticism went as following, that when the media covered Donald Trump, they gave him platform and they gave his supporters access to his rhetoric, thinking, ideologies, you name it. And in so doing, he actually gained a lot of earned media and was able to get more than people who were paying for advertising were getting. And then the idea was, next time, don't cover this guy. Cut the plug. It seems as if there's been some of that application towards Jacob Zuma. It seems as if some of that has been applied to Jacob Zuma. You may not think so, but let's have a critical assessment. In the last 5 months, have you seen equivalent coverage of the MK party? But let's not stop at the MK party, the EFF, the Patriotic Alliance, the ATM, Build One South Africa. Have you seen the same level of coverage that other parties received, maybe the DA, on all platforms? Has it been equivalent? Has the analysis have been favorable? Or have you seen analysts who are preferential to one particular side and not another particular side? Analysts who are very dismissive of criticisms of the opposition and very quick to acquiesce to narratives that come from the governing party. Have you seen that? If you haven't seen it, fair. If you have seen it, then it's fair for us to have a conversation about the role of the media. The role of mainstream media is not meant to be to pick sides. It's meant to be to report what is in the public interest and what is of interest to the public. That's what the media is there for, to provide facts that help the public to understand detail, context that helps the public to understand the events that are playing out in their country, in their continent, in the world. The role of the media is not to decide or think for the people. The people still have that obligation and duty. The media cannot then think, no, these people are not educated. These people, they are prone to populism. These people this, these people that. No. That's not the role of the media. You must report, and then the people must decide. That's the role. At the point at which the media starts to pick winners and losers, at the point at which editorial desks start to pick winners and losers, at the point at which the media starts to put its finger on the scale of public sentiment with deliberate motive and intent, they descend into the arena of being political players themselves, and they no longer occupy the role that they're supposed to occupy. The media is supposed to be the referee. The media is supposed to be the entity that tells you what's happening. And one of my biggest criticisms of the media has been that I've seen selective reporting. The people who committed the VBS bank heist were municipal leaders associated with one political party. There were executives in the bank, many of whom were linked with one political party. The political party that is the dominant political party received about 70% of the votes in 2019, if you go look at the IEC election results. Those are the people who are charged, that are facing trial. But when I read certain publications, I heard that VBS was looted by EFF. Granted that Floyd Shivambu may have benefited from everything that happened with VBS. Granted that even the party itself may have received an amount of money from all of the people who were trying to curry political favor. But the looters, the people who perpetrated the act, the people who met the 5 elements of a criminal act, right? There are 5 elements of a crime in criminal law. Those people were not the EFF, but the media told me that VBS was looted by EFF. And I found that to be a stretch. I found that to be a narrative devoid of seminal value. That's what I thought. Then I reflected upon how the media covered the Gupta leaks. There was nothing that stopped the media from giving us the information. They got all of the information. Computers were hacked into. I don't know how they were hacked into, but we got every piece of information, every piece of paper, every shred of paper. We got it. But when there was the issue around who donated funds to the CR17 campaign, the media lost its appetite. Then I thought, okay, maybe fair. Maybe we don't want to look into those things. There are many private people's affairs that we don't want to necessarily know. But it would have been nice to know who's contributing to a campaign so that we can assess whether they got benefits in the administration, in the interest of transparency and openness, which is what many media houses say they stand for. But let's give them benefit of the doubt. But now, then the Phala Phala thing happened. It was admitted there was money on the farm, foreign currency. But I didn't see the same enthusiasm from the media that I saw in Gupta leaks. I didn't see the same enthusiasm that I saw in VBS. And those different treatments for different scandals have made me worry. Even when you think about the death of Marcus Yuste. Like, so many things there were not probed robustly. I mean, all we saw was some blood on some rocks on a beach. And we were told, yeah, don't worry, this guy is now dead. I mean, Gavin Watson, do you remember that? I mean, did you see? What are we doing here? What are we doing? Are we really trying to have media platforms that inform the public without fear or favor? Or do we now have a media that is playing the game? What do you think? What do you think about all of this? Do you think that Zuma is right? Do you think he's wrong? Let's have a conversation. Jump into the comment sections. The reality is we're going to have to create platforms such as this one. And I hope you comment, you like, you subscribe, you share so that we can have honest conversations. Because the reality is, I used to get a lot of invites on these mainstream media things. But even ANN7, I got to ANN7 once and they asked me, what do I think about the state of the nation? And I said, no, this guy was lying. They never invited me back. On ANN7, back in the days, I didn't get a call back. So I just realized over time that, man, they just want me to say what they want to hear or what some editor wants to hear. They don't want me to ask questions about Phala Phala. They don't want me to ask questions about real things that are happening. They don't want me to ask questions about the oligarchs who own most of the things, who's owning the IPPs. They don't want me to tell people that, something wrong when one guy's money is being used to buy all the players in a soccer league so that that team can keep winning 7 times in a row. You may think that there's something right with it because you support the team, but in economics, that's called market failure. They don't want that kind of analysis. So I've accepted. But as a result of the fact that these media platforms sometimes are very contested and people don't want to hear things that they think the public shouldn't be told, those kind of things. Don't invite that analyst again. Who is that analyst? Because of that, I think platforms like this YouTube channel are going to be important. Platforms like that Twitter page, that TikTok page are going to be important. So I hope you're following. I hope you're subscribing. I hope you are on all of the platforms. Let's get stuff done. By the way, this is just my red pen. It's not, it's this pen. It's on the paper. It's not blood. It's nothing like that. Okay, don't worry about that. Okay. Till the next one. Till the next one. Till the next one.